Let me tell you about Linda. Linda's 68 years old. A few years ago, Linda lost her husband of 42 years to cancer. For 2 years, she focused on getting through the day. Church on Sundays, coffee with friends, occasional visits from adult children. Evenings were the hardest, though. One night, while scrolling through Facebook, Linda received a text message. "Hi, Linda. How are you? You seem like a kind soul." His name was David. He said as a widower, an engineer working overseas on a contract project. He knows the church postings. He said his faith was important to him as well. Within a week, he was messaging her every morning. Within a month, he was calling her my angel. Linda later told investigators, "I didn't feel alone anymore." This is Fraud Watch, Inside the Scam. Today we're talking about romance scams, which target the victim's heart, work on their emotions, and exploit their vulnerabilities, all while targeting their bank accounts. We're breaking down how romance scams emotionally dismantle victims and how criminals slowly take control. Linda and David talked every day. He asked about her late husband. He remembered the anniversary of his passing. David sent long messages to Linda about loss and loneliness. This wasn't random. Romance scammers study grief. They search social media for memorial postings, widow support groups, and public comments about loss. According to federal reports, romance scams continue to cost Americans hundreds of millions of dollars annually, and older victims often suffer the greatest financial loss. But what those reports don't capture is the grooming timeline. For Linda, there was no money request for nearly 6 weeks. Instead, Linda received good morning text messages, late-night emotional conversations, and promises of a shared future. David talked about moving back to the United States. He talked about marriage. He said that he had never connected with someone so deeply. Linda started telling her friends about him. When one friend expressed concern, David said, "They just don't understand what we have." After 2 months, David said something had gone wrong. His overseas contract payment was delayed, and his bank account was simply frozen due to tax clearance issues. David didn't directly ask for money at first. Instead, he said, "I hate to even tell you this. I don't want you to think I'm using you." That's the psychological reverse framing. Victims often feel compelled to prove their trust. Linda offered to help. She transferred $1,800 at first. David thanked her profusely, called her his future wife. That positive reinforcement deepened the bond. Over the next 3 months, a customs fee, a travel clearance issue, a medical expense. Total spent $87,000. Linda's retirement savings. Then came the next evolution. David told Linda that he had access to a crypto investment opportunity, one that would secure their future together. He showed her screenshots of profits. The website looked legitimate. Professional dashboards, live charts, customer service, chat. Romance scams have been around for ages. However, with the rise in popularity of cryptocurrencies, thieves are evolving as well and upping their game by blending romance scams with crypto investment fraud. Linda invested another $40,000. The platform showed profits climbing to $180,000. But when she tried to withdraw, there were tax fees, release charges, more money required. That's when her son discovered the transfers. When confronted, Linda defended David. That's the emotional hold. Victims protect the scammers because the relationship feels real. And when the money stopped, David disappeared. No calls, no messages, just silence. Total spent $127,000. Linda later told investigators, the money hurt, but losing them hurt more. That's the part that statistics don't show. Romance scams are not quick hit crimes. They are long cons built on emotional mirroring, manufactured intimacy, gradual financial escalation, and isolation from family. Criminal networks, many operate overseas, often with trafficked labor. They run scripts. They manage multiple victims simultaneously. To them, it's inventory. To the victim, it's love. That emotional asymmetry is what makes the scam so powerful. And once the shame sets in, the reporting drops, which means the numbers reported to agencies like the FBI and FTC likely represent only a fraction of the true losses. So what are some of the warning signs of a romance scheme? Pay close attention because any one of these might just save you or a loved one from financial ruin. Looking back at Linda's case, there were multiple red flags. For starters, David moved communications off of Facebook quickly. There's a little known fact. that platforms like Facebook and Instagram have built-in security algorithms which frequently flag and ban fraudulent accounts. Moving to apps like WhatsApp or Telegram provide scammers with anonymous encryption and remove evidence if the original account is deleted. This shift isolates the victim and allows for easier manipulation and long-term scams. Next, David claimed to be working overseas on some sort of contract. This is almost always the case in these type of scams because by claiming that he's working overseas, David has a valid excuse for not meeting in person and can help justify the urgent request for money. There's no way for Linda to meet to verify David's story or existence. Linda can't just pop up at David's job at lunch. Additionally, by claiming that he's overseas on a contract, it adds yet another level of deception. Scammers will never offer anything concrete, such as a physical location that can be checked out or verified online. It's always going to be something vague and mysterious, such as working on an oil rig, or in the military, or on a humanitarian mission, so the victim can't do their proper research or due diligence to expose the scam. Next, David avoided live real-time video. This one is a huge red flag. Many of these scams are being operated overseas through call centers. Scammers frequently use stolen photos of attractive, trustworthy-looking, or professional people to lure victims. A live video call would have immediately revealed to Linda that David was not who he claimed to be. Additionally, since scammers claim to be working abroad to explain why they cannot meet in person, if Linda would have been able to have a live video call with David, she would have immediately realized that David was not working on an oil rig, but was instead working out of a Southeast Asian call center with 100 other scammers. David introduced secrecy. In romance schemes, it is essential that the scam be kept private, as family members and friends will question the relationship. Romance schemes are built on manipulating the victim's emotions. In Linda's case, David needed to isolate Linda from her family and friends, and basically anyone who's not caught up in a web of deception and emotional manipulation, because those people will be the first ones to question the relationship. So let me get this straight. You're sending money to someone that you've never met, but you've met them online because they love you and want to marry you? Or, dude, let me get it straight. So you're 65 years old and you're going to tell me that this 30-year-old bombshell wants to marry you. All you have to do is send her money so she can come to the United States to be with you. Sounds kind of weird when you say it out loud, but when you're lonely and in a vulnerable state, well, your heart wants it to be true. And when your heart takes over, it doesn't always listen to your brain. And this is what the scammers take advantage of. David had repeated financial emergencies. This is a core strategy of scammers, and it's designed to exploit the victim's emotional investment by creating a cycle of dependency and escalating financial demands. The emergencies are typically urgent and time-sensitive, which forces the victim to act quickly, often in a state of panic or high emotion, and without consulting with family. In Linda's case, David claimed that his money was tied up at the bank due to some sort of tax clearance issue. But the reality is that it could have been almost anything, as long as it's urgent and unavoidable, such as a medical emergency, needing a plane ticket to visit a victim, or a lost wallet, or even a stolen phone. The scammers often test the victim by starting with a smaller, plausible request in order to gauge the victim's willingness to help. Repeated higher-cost emergencies, or in Linda's case, investments, allow the scammer to test the boundaries and gradually drain the victim's savings, investments, and even home equity. David introduced a crypto investment tied to their future. David played the long game with Linda by building a deep emotional and trust-based relationship before asking her to invest her life savings into a fraudulent crypto platform. Scammers love crypto because of the speed and ability to be anonymous. In law enforcement, we call this type of scam pig butchering. This is a term that I don't like because it implies that the victim's being greedy. The term pig butchering refers to the scammer fattening up the victim by a series of successful, albeit fake, investments. The scammers show the victim's false profits, and the victim, the pig, gets greedy and dumps more money into investment before being slaughtered. Again, it's just my opinion, but I don't like this term because it paints the victim as someone who is greedy. As someone who's interviewed many victims, I can tell you this is not the case. But regardless of what you call it, Scammers use cryptocurrency because it allows them to quickly steal large sums of money anonymously and bypass traditional banking regulations and making funds nearly impossible to recover. And what's the number one red flag? Well, it goes without saying, the fact that they never met in person. Romance scammers are not who they say they are. Their profiles are fake. They're using stolen photos and fabricated identities, and they're just there to take your money. I know we're talking about a 68-year-old woman here, but this is not just lonely widows. It can happen to anyone, men, women, and people of all ages. And for the families listening, if you suspect a loved one is involved in something similar, for starters, don't say you're being scammed. Instead, start with something like, I'm worried about you, or can we verify this together, or let's talk to the bank before you send anything else. Because we're talking about the heart here, and telling someone who's in a vulnerable position and lonely that the person who's taken interest in them isn't real and is only there to use them, well, it's tough to hear. It's not going to be easy, but empathy goes a long ways. Again, the heart wants what it wants. And let's just be real, they may not believe you at first. I can recall a situation where an elderly woman was being scammed and was in the process of selling her home so that she could move to another state to be with her newfound love interest. Of course, she was going to send the proceeds of her home sale to her newfound love interest so that he could help secure their future home together. It was a romance scam, and the woman was days away from closing escrow and losing all of her money. Her kids got involved, but unfortunately, she didn't believe them, because her scammer had already programmed and manipulated her by isolating her from her family. Her children called authorities. And when we went out there, well, it didn't go much better for us either. At first, she didn't believe us, but we were able to help slow things down and ultimately convince her that she was being scammed before she lost everything. Romance scams are hard because they're talking about emotion. So be patient, be loving, and be kind. Don't be confrontational, because confrontation often strengthens the scammer's grips. But compassion breaks it. Now, this case is not rare. It happens every day. And the people targeted are often kind, grieving, and hopeful human beings who simply want compassion. Romance scammers don't exploit greed, they exploit loneliness. If this episode resonates with you, share with somebody you care about, especially anyone who's navigating online dating later in life. And don't forget to subscribe to Fraud Watch so you don't miss out on future episodes that could potentially help protect you or a loved one from financial disaster. Next week, we'll be breaking down how fake crypto platforms are engineered to look real and how you can spot one under 5 minutes. Until then, slow down, verify independently, and never send money to someone you've never met. Fraud only works when it stays quiet, so let's keep exposing it. This is Fraud Watch, Inside a Scam. Thank you for watching. Take care. Bye for now.